guys, gals, theys, and gays, and welcome back to my channel. And today we're just going to be talking about another round of trends, but again, specifically trends that, while they not be abhorrent on their own, are simply just not things that I am interested in investing my time or my money in pursuing. And just like every time I have an opinion-based videos, these are just my opinions, my thoughts. If you love these trends, if these things are you, if you are already wearing them or wanting to wear them, that is absolutely fan-tucking-fastic. You keep doing you, boo-boo, because there is no one else quite like you. These are simply things that I have seen either in trend predictions, trend videos, stuff that has organically popped up via creators that I watch. As much as I love talking about things that interest and intrigue me, obviously I also love talking about things that are popping off but don't do it for me in one way or another, either aesthetically or are simply so far out there that I deem myself credible enough to talk about, but I love hearing myself talk, so let's just get into this list of trends that are things that just don't vibe with me for one reason or another. The first of which being something that is so opinion-based and that is so personal. With each new passing season, every time it comes up as a trend, it's like, just like what you like. And that is a wide variety of slim, straight, barrel jeans, as well as skinny jeans coming back into style. And I wanted to touch on this simply also because I was in the 2010s, I was very emo, goth, alternative. I was spray painting myself into my skinny jeans for many years, and they are not a pant style that I think I will ever fall in love with again. Not because there's anything wrong with them, but just because I don't like how they suit my body. And I think it's important to remember that with jeans, especially jeans, I mean pants and everything in and out of style, whatever, but jeans specifically, no matter what style it is, eventually it will come back into that cycle. So rather than going to and from and being like, oh, I need the barrel jeans, oh, I need this kind, I am forever a flares and boot cut loving person. And amidst all the trends, I really try to stay true to those because I know they're what I like. I know it's what I find suits my body. And definitely with all of this, I am a strong advocate of wear whatever the fuck you want, however the fuck you want. But I think it's really an undervalued thing within fashion spaces to find those shapes and silhouettes that you love. Again, I try not to dress for what is aesthetically pleasing on a societal level, but just listening to ourselves and acknowledging that, oh, amidst all of the trends and amidst all of the cycles, whichever what denim is popular, I noticed that this is what I'm gravitating towards. This is what I'm excited about coming back into style. And rather than trying to chase the denim trends, just focus on what you like, because eventually, inevitably, those things will come back into style. Part of me is like, okay, skinny jeans and straight leg and all of that and slim straight and whatever are popular. I am dying to find flares and boot cut at the thrift. I'm like, all right, skinny jeans are in. Why the fuck am I seeing so many skinny jeans at the thrift? Like nothing but skinny jeans. And I think that is due in part to the fact that for a long period of time, skinny jeans were what was being manufactured. But when it comes to denim styles and trends, I have tried a couple different things and been like, oh, maybe I'll try this and this. And I always come back to the same old pairs that I love, and there just isn't any reason for me to be pursuing any other style of denim. Next is, I feel, a shoe brand that while it may be trending and certain styles do trend, I think they are a brand that kind of remains a certain level of relevance, especially with the waves of social media and influencer marketing. And that is Uggs. In the majority of their vast collection, I have thought so many times about trying to acquire secondhand a pair of Uggs that are me, that speak to me. And while there have been some that have been a little bit tempting, just overall, they don't do it for me. And especially a lot of their newer releases, because again, talking about this, certain styles are trending depending on what gets released, but on that sub-base level, Uggs are just really popular in the fashion space. I'm not here to completely be all like, oh, Uggs are absolutely awful and ugly, but I kind of want to be real. I want to be realistic, and a lot of them, to me, in my opinion, are pretty butt ugly. And even amidst my slight desire to dip my toes in and find a pair, because like comfy, Sherpa lining, warm, the season is cold currently, and my little tootsies need a little bit of warmth. It may not get super, super, super crazy cold in Virginia, but it definitely gets cold enough. But I just keep seeing each incarnation touted by all these back to school hauls and everything, and then being like, look at these new Uggs, and I'm like, oh god, they're awful. It's like, how many versions of the same sort of thing do we need? And I know that Ugg has its particular aesthetic, but like a ballet flat Ugg, do we really need that? I am a big lover of a platform. A big old chunky platform like this is what sets my fashion loins ablaze. But it's just the fluffy, the suede, the everything kind of all together that makes them seem almost a little bit uncanny valley, like they're footwear. But why do they look like that? Why do we keep making more Chimera hybrid, weird, wacky versions of Uggs and making them a very trend cycle related shoe rather than just focusing on the merit of the shoe itself as, because it'll be warm and comfy and cozy, but we're putting it as like a fashion shoe, which maybe I just don't get the vibe. Maybe I'm just not hip and with it, but every time I see a new trending Ugg and every time I'm like, oh baby, let me go see, for the price, even how secondhand, it's just not anything that does anything for me. This next one is a print, a pattern, which, don't get me wrong, I love me a pattern. I'm a plaid, I'm a stripe, fuck it up with paisley. And this one is kind of in that I wasn't sure if I wanted to put it in this video talking about trends that aren't me, or in another video talking about ones that I'm intrigued by, and that's Argyle, which I feel on the face of it looks like something that I should absolutely fuck with. This, and then I see it being mixed with plaid, I am definitely a fan of, and I want to learn more about and style more print mixing. I absolutely love staying in a color family, but mixing it up with prints and breaking it up with texture and such. And so on the first front, I look at it and I'm like, ooh, looks a little intriguing. I actually have, and I will be styling 2 sweaters. I've got a sweater vest and then just a regular pullover sweater. That is Argyle, which clearly I was out and about at the thrift. Both were thrifted secondhand, but looking at it as something to like future invest in, I know just isn't me. I love plaid, I love stripes, I have those patterns that really do speak to me. If it's gonna be between Argyle and tartan and plaid, definitely going to be going with the plaid. And while it is something that I currently have in my wardrobe, which I'm very excited to pull out and try and style and see how that goes, it's definitely not something that I see and makes me jump to the conclusion of I would like to add more of this into my wardrobe. I also, when it comes to talking about trends that aren't me and just trends on a whole, I like to have an emphasis and an acknowledgement that part of what I don't like with the trends and how fast the cycles are is how much stuff is manufactured on a fast fashion basis. You know, you've got things like Zara. Zara's a really big popular one that definitely comes up with a lot of quickly manufactured super trendy pieces, which ultimately are created under poor conditioning using subpar materials, not freakishly expensive, but still for what you get, what I consider to be overpriced. And I am really opposed to the quick manufacturing because it's a trend. It's a thing that's popping off. Who knows if it's going to be here in 2, 3, 6 months, probably not in a year, but who knows, maybe in a year coming in winter 2027, we're going to be seeing Argyle all over the place. But when it's something that can be found secondhand online or even thrifted. I got both of my Argyle pieces thrifted. The overabundance within, you know, if it's a trend, you know, Zara's one, you're gonna see it on Shein, Pretty Little Things, so many different companies that while we may not think about them, I mean, Shein and Pretty Little Things, obviously, and Zara, but other companies also jump on trends that we may not initially think as fast fashion. As we are moving forward in this late stage capitalistic hellscape, the amount of goods being produced is just astronomical. And fashion, while there is a big boom of acknowledging and calling into light a lot of the fast fashion, I think we don't quite comprehend how fast it really is. It's not just the ultra fast, but so many companies have such a amped up production that a majority of the clothing being produced is, again, environmentally detrimental to our planet and our society and our relationship with consumption. So it'll be fun. Stay tuned for seeing me styling Argyle, but I'm definitely not going to be going out and being like, ooh, I need Argyle. And please, I beg of you, don't go out and buy a polyester Argyle sweater. I understand thrifting isn't as easy as some people claim it to be, but try to find it secondhand. Along with skinny jeans, I understand that the 2010s are very trending, and while I lived definitely in the 90s and the 2000s, my young adult and my adult life was in the 2010s, and with skinny jeans, we are also seeing a return to peplum, which, do not get me wrong, I fucked hard with a peplum back in the day. In the 2010s, I was very involved with what was trendy, what was popular. I had a subscription to just about every single fashion magazine. In Style, I had Glamour, I had Elle. I really enjoyed consuming trendy fashion content. And the peplum was definitely a big one. All I can think about is a peplum bodycon dress where you've got the nice structured top, the peplum, and then the pencil skirt underneath that. Peplum top with a pair of skinny jeans and some like little Isabel Marant booties. Absolutely top tier for the period. Extra points if it was like a primary color, blue, red. And initially when I saw this, I was like, oh, a little peplum? How interesting, how intriguing. But upon further looking, upon further styling, and upon further internalization, I was like, you know, as much as I loved it back in the day, I feel like with all the silhouettes I have in my wardrobe, with all the silhouettes that I know I love, that I wear, that I think really suit me well and make me feel confident, I don't see peplum rising above any of that and intriguing me to the point where I want to buy it and I want to wear it. I mean, it's cute and it's fun, but it is, I think, simply because the 2010s are having such a resurgence right now that we're just bringing back familiar silhouettes in a way to relive those days. And kind of with everything that I've learned about myself now, again, I have those shapes, I have those silhouettes that I know that I like. And while there definitely is a tug of nostalgia on my millennial heartstrings when it comes to seeing a peplum, kind of the same way with the skinny jeans, it's just not for me. I don't think it's an inherently bad shape. I think it can be very flattering. But for me and the way that I like to dress and the things that I already know I have in my wardrobe, it's again just not something that I need to acquire or are feeling like it's something that I could invest in and then would bring a lot of versatility to my wardrobe. Something that is a little bit specific is I saw popping up on Instagram, apparently Carhartt is re-releasing, bringing back their Aztec jacket, which was a very popular design. And if we know anything, we know that nostalgia sells. And a lot of brands are like, oh, nostalgia sells. Let's do a re-release, a reissue, a bringing back. Look at this nostalgic design. Look at this vintage inspired. And people are like, oh, look at it. I want to live the back old days. And brands really are banking on the return to a love of vintage. Again, that nostalgic marketing that brings you into consuming on an emotional level. You're not just buying clothes, you're buying a memory. You're buying a nostalgic aesthetic. And there's also part of me that I see this and I'm like, oh, great, they're bringing back an older design. And on the secondhand market, Carhartt is already disgustingly expensive. As much as I would love to find in my size a chore barn coat, just not in my size and not in my price point. And I kind of really hate it when brands are like, oh, let's bring back this nostalgic, this vintage design and market it as not necessarily something new, but definitely marketing it to those people who are influenced by vintage. And then I'm not entirely sure, again, I don't know. I don't have a degree in fashion and business. I actually took a business class in college and learned that I do not have the mindset for any entrepreneurial enterprises. But when brands do this, it then goes back into the cycle of increasing the premiums on their vintage older items. And if you know me, you know that I am definitely an advocate for accessibility. That's one of the reasons I love shopping secondhand and thrifting. And when you have companies that are banking on the nostalgia, it does have that trickle down effect to the items already in the secondhand market, creating supply and demand not only in their newer products, but in the ones already produced that people could have better access to, and closing that gap and making it more exclusive, which I am definitely not a fan of. A couple that just, again, aren't me, don't speak to me. This one is definitely one that I've seen not as much mainstream, but more being touted by a lot of the alternative and eclectic and eccentric and maximalist content creators that I watch, and that's prize ribbons. Simply because it's a nice little, eye-catching conversation accessory piece. I've seen people have them on jackets, wearing them as necklaces, putting them on their bags. And this is definitely just something that's a bit too niche, a bit too out of how I like to dress. Like I said, it's something that I've seen more on people who constantly push the envelope and like wearing trends that are much more out there. And as much as I like to consider myself an eclectic dresser, there are just things that simply just aren't me. And prize ribbons is definitely one of those. It gives very equestrian. I think it can kind of skew high fashion. I mean, think Ralph Lauren or Burberry in a nice houndstooth or a plaid blazer with a color coordinated prize ribbon on the lapel. Perhaps I am not nuanced enough to understand the styling potential and versatility of a prize ribbon. It's just not my thing, and that's okay. Something that's popped off more recently are the Rugby shirts, which, do not get me wrong, I absolutely love me a stripe. Stripes are one of my favorite patterns, either on pants or dresses or tops, especially a striped top just absolutely does it for me. I am not someone who wears a lot of white, so I'm definitely a little thrown off by the white collar. Like if I could find a Rugby shirt in neutral brown and green tones and then with a contrasting color that wasn't white for the collar, I might be more intrigued. I'm not really into the oversized. I'm seeing it kind of worn a lot with jorts are really popular right now, with the wide-legged barrel jeans. Again, being styled in silhouettes that don't really do anything for me and silhouettes that I'm not interested in trying out in order to accommodate this. And it's also one thing that's being styled a lot more sporty, which I am definitely, if I have any level of eclectic in my wardrobe and styling, sporty is definitely not one of them. I am not a huge sneaker person. I'm not a huge shorts person. There are just elements to that style that just don't reckon with me. They don't reverberate within my fashion loving soul. And it's the type of thing that when you have trends that are these such so specific items within fashion related content, we really are pushed to consume and to purchase trends without any thought to pause and think about our personal style and what we like. The curation of personal style goes so far beyond being aware of trends and wanting to participate in them. It requires an ability to discern between those pieces that are popular just because they're popping off, besides things that you will be taking and adding into your wardrobe that add versatility and depth to the way that you dress. And I think a Rugby shirt is again something, and again, maybe I don't have enough styling nuance, maybe I'm just not fashion smart enough. I think they are something that is a bit more specific. Is it something that after the trend passes that you'll think, ah, yes, now that Rugby shirts aren't in, will I be able to take this and still utilize it in the other things that I have in my wardrobe? For me, that is definitely a no. I mean, there are only so many types of pants that I could wear with it. And as much as I love stripes, rather than going in on the Rugby shirt trend, I'll just stick with the stripes that I have, or go, if I'm intrigued by a color combination, maybe I would take inspiration from that and go find it in just a regular striped top that doesn't have any Rugby association with it. Or if I want to get my yayas out and I'm feeling inspired by Rugby, maybe I'll just watch a match. But it's definitely for me something that I've seen rise in popularity. A couple content creators that I watch have mentioned them and discuss sort of the lack of versatility. And again, it's the type of thing where if that's your style and you completely fuck with a Rugby shirt, hey, live your best life. They're trendy right now. If you're watching my channel, hopefully don't go out and buy a first-hand one. Try to find it secondhand. I have seen a few, maybe not specifically official Rugby shirts, kind of Rugby style adjacent at the thrift. I'm always an advocate for secondhand is better than firsthand. I will not judge you for buying firsthand. We're all just fashion-loving people here, but for me, definitely won't be buying a Rugby shirt. And I'm not even feeling like looking at it and being like, oh, yes, that's cute. I'm just like, okay, that's really crazy sporty, and if that's you, that's great, but that's definitely not me. I've honestly got a few more here that I could talk about, but I'm trying to not make my videos freakishly long. If you would be interested in watching me consistently, I don't want to say constantly, but continuously coming back to trends that I'm seeing that are not inspiring me, I'm working on, I don't have a full list yet, but jotting down trends that do inspire me that'll be coming in a later video when that list gets full enough. But I love talking. I love hearing myself talk. I love discussing fashion. I'd love to hear y'all's thoughts about these trends as well as your opinions on any trends circulating. Curating discourse is why I am here. And if you made it this far, give yourself a giant gold fucking star. You deserve it for listening to me talk about trends that do not do it for me for 34 minutes at this point. But thank y'all so much for watching. I love you. And as always, keep it real. Mwah.